Why is the press and the palace refusing to look or comment or report on Meghan Markle's links to the same individual? And most importantly, her relationship, her close personal relationship with Prince Andrew.
And this is sweet. Meghan Markle said she has a finger they can use if they need it.
Wasn't there some speculation that she was on Epstein's yacht at one point in time? There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s. Wow.
Okay. King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American.
I tried so hard.
Listen, I brought Meghan Markle, whatever her name is, to my Deal or No Deal celebrity golf tournament. She was one of my Deal or No Deal girls that were, she was a caddy.
It was just another Saturday night, until it wasn't. Colin Jost stared straight into the camera on SNL's Weekend Update and dropped a line so sharp the room stopped breathing. One of the terms in the new UK trade deal, he said, is that America sends Meghan back. The crowd went silent for half a second. Then I completely lost it, because this was not just a joke. It was the moment a room full of people said out loud what a very large portion of the world had quietly been thinking for years. The failed rebrands, the privacy tours that ended up on Netflix, the titles they do not actually hold. The world had already made up its mind. SNL just made it official.
President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
No, I refuse. I'm sick of
Children don't know who their daddy is.
Meghan Markle is once again getting trolled. Oh, poor Meghan, the most trolled person in the entire world.
Here is what makes that joke land harder than most people initially registered. SNL did not wake up one morning in 2025 and decided to take aim at Meghan Markle. They have been doing it since the actual night of the royal wedding in May 2018. While the flowers were still fresh at Windsor, they called Harry an unemployed man living with his grandmother. The crowd roared. Then came years of escalating material. On the half-trader jokes, the not today Satan references, and now the trade deal. 8 years, same desk, same late-night audience, laughing harder every single time. This is not a random comedian taking a cheap shot on a podcast from his living room. This is the biggest comedy stage in America, with NBC lawyers reading every script before it airs, finally saying what millions of people had already concluded. And what makes the Jost joke specifically devastating is what it is actually about. Meghan is not being mocked for her politics, or her mental health struggles, or the racism she says she experienced. She is being mocked for her brand, a brand that gets measurably weaker every single week. When SNL writes you into a trade deal punchline, it is not an attack. It is a verdict. And verdicts from that particular stage tend to stick.
The monarchy, what did you think it was going to be like?
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
Research?
No. I've never looked up my husband online.
What? Let me introduce this thing called Google, okay? Over there, I think it's called Lori. It's full of useful information. For instance, turns out your husband knew Princess Di. That might have been a hint that this was going to be a rough gig. So while you're Googling, you might want to try the combo Andrew, Island, and Epstein.
Sharp-eyed observers caught something else underneath the joke that went beyond the laugh. When SNL stops protecting a public figure, and this show has a history of letting certain targets alone when the cultural mood deems them untouchable, it usually means everyone else in the room already stopped long before. The late-night machine is a lagging indicator, not a leading one. By the time Jost delivers a line like that, the writer's room has done months of research into what the audience will accept, what it will recoil from, and what it will simply laugh at without needing to be told why. They do not write jokes that will lose the room. The fact that this one did not lose the room, that it landed cleanly without a murmur of discomfort from an audience that has historically been sympathetic to Meghan's account of her royal experience, tells you exactly where public opinion actually sits right now, regardless of what any press release claims it to be. The joke barely had time to cool before the internet produced its own accelerant. Within days of the SNL broadcast, a set of photographs began circulating across Reddit, TikTok, and X. The images showed a woman on a yacht off a European coast. Luxury setting, powerful company, designer everything, and a significant portion of the internet decided almost immediately that the woman was Meghan. It is important to be precise about what actually happened here, because the distinction matters. Nobody with professional credentials, no mainstream outlet, and no verified source confirmed the identity of the woman in those photographs. The identification was made entirely by anonymous social media users running self-described forensic analysis on publicly circulating images, comparing jawlines, wrist angles, body proportions, and what several posts described with complete confidence as belly button placement. That is the full extent of the evidence. Anonymous accounts on platforms with no editorial accountability decided this was Meghan, and the claim spread because it spread, not because anyone confirmed it. The photographs have never been authenticated. The woman in them has never been publicly identified by anyone with the ability to actually verify it. This needs to be stated clearly before anything else, because what followed was a viral phenomenon built almost entirely on speculation rather than documented fact.
The hatred for Meghan is all over the place. She has burned way too many bridges, so it doesn't surprise me at all. And hence why we're getting jokes like this, because she's become the joke. Meghan Markle is completely a joke at this point.
Prince Andrew's confiding to friends about the not-so-secret relationship with him and Meghan Markle, and this is why Prince Harry wants to end the marriage and is so disgusted he can barely touch his woman.
Since you like that, here's another.
With that framing firmly in place, the viral phenomenon itself is worth examining, because it tells you something real about where Meghan's public standing currently sits, even if the photographs tell you nothing verifiable about Meghan specifically. The claim spread at extraordinary speed. Reddit went, in the original script's own phrase, forensic. TikTok went wild. X ran extended threads. The reason it spread so fast was not because the evidence was compelling, it was not. And most people engaging with it knew it was not confirmed. It spread because the narrative it offered fit a pre-existing set of public doubts about the gap between the version of Meghan being sold and whatever existed before it. That gap is real, regardless of whether any specific photograph illustrates it. Meghan has built her entire public identity since 2017 on a carefully controlled, highly curated image of grace, humanitarian purpose, and female empowerment. Every post, every appearance, every interview has been a deliberate piece of that construction. When viral content, verified or not, offers a contrasting image, it gets amplified by an audience that was already primed to receive it. The unverified yacht photographs went viral, not because they were proved to be what people claimed, but because the audience was ready to believe there was something being hidden, and the images gave that suspicion a shape to attach itself to. What genuinely damaged the brand in that window was not the photographs themselves. It was Meghan's response to them. Or more precisely, the complete absence of one. When a damaging story hits a public figure whose entire operation is built around rapid communications management, the standard playbook is straightforward. Deny it immediately, threaten legal action if the claim is false, issue a statement through the appropriate channel, and shut it down fast. Meghan has deployed exactly that playbook against the Daily Mail, against Piers Morgan, against Tom Bauer, against a long list of publications and individuals over matters considerably less central to her brand than this. Against the yacht rumor, she said nothing. No Instagram note, no Archewell statement, no lawyer's letter to the platforms hosting the photographs, no vague post about truth or resilience. Radio silence, sustained, while the story spread across every major platform for days without a single official pushback. In today's media environment, silence from a communicator of Meghan's caliber does not read as dignified restraint. It reads as an absence of options. When a claim is straightforwardly false and you have the legal and communications infrastructure to prove it, you prove it. The silence, sustained over days while the rumor reached millions of people, fed the machine in a way that any statement, even an imperfect one, would not have. And notably, even Meghan's most vocal supporters went quiet during the window. The lifestyle influencers who normally rush to her defense, the feminist commentators who have amplified her narrative for years, the podcasters who have dedicated episodes to contextualizing every criticism she receives, none of them rushed in, because there was no clean way to engage with it, and everyone on her side apparently understood that.
In the press conference, a reporter asked Trump about Meghan Markle, and this is what he had to say about her.
I'm not a fan of hers, and she probably has heard that, but I wish a lot of luck to Harry, because he's going to need it.
Wow. Who had Meghan Markle on their random Trump insults bingo card? Anyone? If you're keeping track, Meghan Markle's got beef with the Queen of England and the President of the United States.
Running underneath all of this is the SNL dynamic, and it is worth returning to it because it is the thread that connects everything. The Joss joke was not the beginning of the cultural shift. It was the public marker of a shift that had already happened, confirmed by the audience's reaction in real time. That audience, largely urban, largely liberal, largely the demographic that has historically been sympathetic to Meghan's narrative of institutional racism and royal coldness, laughed at the trade deal joke without hesitation. That is the data point that matters more than any poll number or engagement metric. When the room that was always supposed to be on your side laughs at the joke made at your expense, the brand has a problem that no relaunch can fix by pretending the joke did not happen. Hollywood noticed. Industry whispers in the weeks following described studios reconsidering projects, brands pausing campaigns, and the general sense that Meghan had become harder to manage from a risk perspective rather than easier. Not because she is not talented or recognizable, she is both, but because predictability is the currency that commercial partnerships run on, and the combination of the yacht rumor cycle, the SNL verdict, and the sustained communication silence produced the opposite of predictability. In an industry where image is the product, her stock had become visibly volatile.
Rina Shuliak was Jeffrey Epstein's last known girlfriend. She is on record saying that the only times she flew on a plane, went on a yacht, or whatever was with her boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. And here we have Rachel Meghan Markle parading on a yacht since 2014.
Retire!
And Harry. It is worth addressing where Harry sits in all of this, because he did not choose to be in the thumbnail next to a story that had nothing to do with him. By multiple accounts from people watching that period closely, Harry went unusually quiet. Fewer public appearances, less visible engagement with the joint content schedule. Royal watchers who cover the couple closely described him as appearing to step back from strategy conversations that he would normally participate in. One observer, quoted anonymously, put it in terms that have circulated widely since. He looked like a man who had just read the fine print of his own fairy tale. That may be uncharitable. It may be projection from people who have decided the narrative in advance, but it is consistent with a pattern that Bauer and others have documented across 2025 and 2026 more broadly. A man who gave up an enormous amount to be part of a joint venture, watching that venture produce results that neither of them anticipated and that the original pitch did not account for. The united front is still being performed for cameras when cameras require it. Whether it is being felt behind the cameras is a different question, and nobody outside that house actually knows the answer. Here is the part that connects everything into a single picture. Meghan did not just become a duchess, she engineered herself into one, across years of deliberate image construction, through the TIG blog, through Suits, through strategic networking, through the carefully managed transition from actress to humanitarian to duchess, to Netflix creator to lifestyle brand founder. Every piece of that image was built, polished, and sold. The construction is genuinely impressive as a feat of personal branding, whatever you think of the choices involved. But brands built on aesthetic perfection are specifically vulnerable to the one thing they cannot control: unfiltered contrast. The yacht rumor, unverified, unconfirmed, and possibly entirely wrong about its central claim, did not damage Meghan because it was proved true. It damaged her because it offered a contrasting image at precisely the moment her carefully managed rebrand was already struggling commercially. With Love Meghan at number 383, Netflix equity exiting as ever, Spotify gone after one series, the lifestyle brand without a platform partner. Into that weakened context, a viral rumor does not need to be verified to do damage. It just needs to arrive at the right moment, which this one did. Colin Joss' punchline was not the start of anything. It was the moment the mask everyone had been watching slip for 2 years finally came fully off in public on the biggest comedy stage in America, in front of an audience that laughed without hesitation. Once a public figure becomes that kind of punchline on that particular stage, no communication strategy moves fast enough to outrun it. It lives in comment sections and threads and stitched reels that never fully die. It redefines the figure in a way that every subsequent announcement has to contend with. Meghan is not just being questioned now. She is being redefined, not as the brave outsider or the royal rebel, but as a brand strategist whose biggest product has always been herself, and whose polish has started to show its seams in ways that the audience is no longer willing to politely ignore.
Let us have an end to this debate about what makes a good man. Be one.
There you go.
You can use that.
Good knowledge.
You can use that. That's the part. That's the part we're editing out of this interview. Boy, right there. All right.
Very
Unlike
similar
what?
to this experience.
Unlike what?
That's right. You can carry on. You were doing great. You were doing great.
No, you're doing great.
She has to blame her own choices, her own preferences, and blame it on others because she doesn't have the balls or the ovaries to admit that that's how she likes it.
One more thing worth saying before the verdict, because it speaks to the structural problem underneath all of this rather than just the most recent news cycle. The SNL joke and the yacht rumor both happened in the same cultural moment, and the reason they compounded each other rather than competing for attention is that they spoke to the same underlying anxiety about the Sussex brand. That anxiety is not primarily about any specific allegation or any particular photograph. It is about the gap between the version of Meghan being sold and the version the audience is now assembling from the accumulated evidence of the commercial results, the partner exits, the silence during controversies, and the escalating reliance on the royal connection she claims to have left behind. A brand survives bad press when the underlying product is strong enough that people continue to choose it regardless. The question the last 12 months of commercial data have raised, Netflix at number 383, equity partner exiting, Spotify gone after one series, is whether the underlying product was ever as strong as the packaging suggested. That is not a question the yacht rumor created. That is a question the audience was already asking, and the rumor cycle simply gave it a much louder amplifier than it had found before. When that question gets louder at the exact moment SNL delivers a verdict from the biggest comedy stage in America, and when the communications response to both is silence, the compounding effect is not accidental. It is what happens when a brand built on controlled narrative loses control of the narrative on multiple fronts simultaneously without the commercial performance underneath it that would let an audience choose to look away. That is where the Sussex brand currently sits. Not broken, not finished, but visibly, measurably, publicly wobbling in ways that 2 years ago would have been unthinkable. So tell me where you land on all of this. Was the SNL joke the moment the cultural conversation finally shifted for good? Or is this just another cycle that the Sussex machine will outlast the way it has outlasted everything else? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who want the full picture. And subscribe because there is considerably more coming this week. The next chapter examines every country that has quietly told the Sussexes no thank you in the last 12 months, and one of them will genuinely surprise you. And that is the real headline underneath all the noise this week. Not a yacht photograph nobody can verify, not a trade deal joke taken out of context. The fact that the audience laughed, quickly, cleanly, without hesitation, is the data point. Everything else follows from it.